Sordid Tales, the podcast.
So Peter, what's your best Howard Cosell story?
You know, I was out here on for the 84 Olympics working with Howard on boxing. I was in charge of the instant replays, the only live event I ever worked. So especially the first week of the Olympics, I'd see like 36 or 32 fights in a day, literally sitting there. I mean, wow. Eyes dripping out of my head.
Jeez.
And Howard Cosell never drove a car in his life.
Really?
So I used to drive him. Yeah, I used to drive him from the sports arena in downtown LA, where USC is, back to the hotel in the Valley. So after seeing 36 fights one day, I get pulled over driving home. Howard's in the back seat, and Alex Wallow, who was the producer then, is in the front seat. I get pulled over by a cop who says I was weaving. And so while the cop is checking, I held up my badges. I said, I'm with the Olympic unit. And so the guy takes my license, excuse me. And while he's checking it out, Howard is saying to me, Peter, you just tell me, and I'll tell this fucking cop where to go. You just give me the word. I'm behind you 100%. I won't hear of it. I won't have my people do this. And so I said to him, Howard, why couldn't you just stick your head out of the window in the first place? He probably wouldn't have even taken my license. He goes, I'm not going that far for you. I'm not totally selling out everything I believe in for your driver's license. So the cop comes back. And says, and gives me my license and says, look, just, drive a little bit more slowly. I'm going to let you go. And then Howard Cosell rolls his window down and says, Officer, you're making a horrible mistake. This man is a menace to the highway.
Oh, you're kidding me. He really said that?
Yeah, that's just what Howard used to do. I mean, he was, he loved his, in a way, he enjoyed his celebrity more than anyone I knew, and he enjoyed his power. I'll never forget, he interviewed Eddie Murray, who was a baseball player, who was one of the most surliest players. Everybody was terrified of him, except when Howard Cosell wanted to interview him, he was like, oh, okay, Mr. Cosell. And so he asks him up a bunch of questions, and at the end of the interview, Howard says to him, okay, Eddie, last question. Why is it that you hate the Jewish people? Eddie's like, no, Mr. Cosell, I don't hate the Jewish. In a total panic, and Howard goes, I'm just fucking with you.
What would have been really funny is if they aired that.
That's awesome.
Howard Cosell was the funniest boss I ever had, and I worked for Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. Wow. So that should tell you something.
Wow, that does tell you something. Well, this is Sordid Tales, the podcast. Our featured guest today is Peter Mehlman. You can visit him at pmehlman.com or buy his book at thesagergroup.net or on amazon.com. Mike, you feeling left out over there?
I'm good, man.
Okay.
It's my role to support.
When we take a break, we can get you some warm milk and cookies.
I'm good.
You sure?
I'm
okay. Good. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, come back, and then we're going to talk about some Seinfeld action.
Ooh. I know nothing about that.
You might be bored sitting all alone in your house. You might be living in a closet afraid to come out. That's cool. Put on Sordid Tales, the podcast. Don't be a fool. Don't be lonely in your room. You got friends. You got Jesse. You got Ed. You got Dave, you got Lizzie the Ombudsman, you got Berkeley, yeah. Don't be a fool, put on your headphones, you're never alone with Sordid Tales, the podcast, that's what you're listening to, yeah. Sordid Tales, the podcast, you'll never be alone. Sordid Tales, the podcast, don't move out of your mom and dad's home. Live free, the world is yours on the vine, yeah. You are the 99% listening to Sordid Tales. Don't be the 1% of geeks who never know anything. Don't be the selfish mother that you know you could be. You got Sordid Tales. Oh yeah, baby.
Sordid Tales, the podcast.